This is Richard Close. I'm president of the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association. And I want to welcome everyone to our first public forum. And the subject today is redistricting of the city council. This occurs every 10 years. And it's real important to the San Fernando Valley as well as LA City and Sherman Oaks in particular. We're very pleased and honored to have Bob Anderson, who's on the board of directors of the association, as the moderator today. He participated in the 2011 redistricting on behalf of the association. He's an expert on the software that is used for redistricting, and therefore he can create and make changes to proposed redistricting of the city and Sherman Oaks in particular. Our goal is to maximize the power of the San Fernando Valley on the city council, maximize the number of city council seats on the city council. Also, we want to avoid any dividing up of Sherman Oaks, which has happened in the past. I was a member of the 2001 Redistricting Commission, and I know it's a difficult task. It can be political, it shouldn't be, and we're going to hear more about it. One final thing, for those who attend the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association monthly meetings, for September, our meeting is on Tuesday, September 14th, and it will feature LAPD Deputy Chief Alan Hamilton, who is in charge of all police activity for the San Fernando Valley. With that, I'd like to turn over the meeting to Bob Anderson.
Thanks, Richard. And I'm going to start spotlighting people who are talking. Thank you very much for attending, especially on a Saturday on the Labor Day weekend. We'll start going through the agenda and other things first. I really appreciate that you all have attended. We're going to use the raise hand function to ask questions, and I will explain that a little later. You don't have to raise your hand yet. I'll tell you when it's the right time. And if you have joined on the telephone, we're glad to have you also, and we'll take care of explaining how to do that. This is being recorded and the video will be available sometime, hopefully today, if not tomorrow, and we'll have more information on that later. For right now, I am going to share my screen with you and show a few things that will help you get oriented and understand the position that SOHA, the recommendation that SOHA has made. This is Saturday, September 14th, and we're glad to have you. You've heard the welcome from Richard, myself. Then we have Commissioner Alexandra SOHA, who is going to, she's a redistricting commissioner working on the process right now. She's going to go through the process and explain it. We also have Rafael Gonzalez, who is the commission director on community outreach and engagement or development. And then we're going to have public comments and Q&A. So everybody in the audience will have time we'll give you time to make a comment or ask a question oriented to the commissioner and the director. Hopefully, if you have one for me about anything we do, I'll try to answer that also. One thing I want to mention, and a lot of people are confused about redistricting because it's very complicated in itself. But in addition, there are 4 redistricting efforts going on right now that all impact Sherman Oaks. The first one is the Los Angeles City Council Redistricting Commission, and they're focused on redistricting our city council districts. And that's what today's focus is, which is why this chart has a red box around it. But there's also a separate city redistricting commission about the school district, another one at the county level, which redistricts the 5 supervisor districts in Los Angeles County, and yet another commission at the state level, which redistricts the congressional, state Senate, and state assembly districts. So as I said, today we're going to focus on the city council redistricting, but these others are also important. For those of you who haven't seen this lately or don't remember it, this is the city council districts in our area today. These were a result of redistricting 10 years ago in 2011. And we have a lot of concerns in Sherman Oaks about these districts. There you can see we're in CD4, Council District 4, Council Member Nithya Raman. Here we are, Sherman Oaks with the red line around us, and this tiny little connection to this district, which includes Hollywood, Toluca Lake, Griffith Park, Los Feliz, Silver Lake, and Hancock Park. It's one of the most convoluted, and someone once said ugliest districts that was ever created in the history of the city. Next to us is Encino, and Encino again goes through a little tiny isthmus of land down and goes through Westwood, Bel Air, all the way over here into parts of the Fairfax district. And these districts actually wrap around one another. We think these are very unfair. Sherman Oaks is isolated from all our neighbors on all four sides. So is Encino. And we're connected to the rest of the district with this little piece of land. We have a good relationship with Council Member Raman and her predecessor. We always try to work with our council members, but this makes it difficult for her, who lives down here, with all of this land and all of these various connections and so many communities of interest that are isolated from one another. And Encino is sort of in the same boat with their council member Koretz. On top of that, these districts are a little bit unfair because in 2011, that redistricting commission sort of shrunk the size of these by increasing the size of the other valley districts and ended up putting two districts over the hill so they're not isolated from one another. If it had been done right, there should have been one district, and that district, if done correctly, would have been a 62% valley majority district. I mean, that's a big deal. The valley would have been the majority in the district, but that didn't happen. So we made some recommendations, the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association. They sound pretty simple. We just said, please give us a single district over the Sepulveda Pass in the valley that goes over the pass. And then be fair to us with the population breakdowns between the valley and the city, because that didn't happen in 2011. Those two simple little recommendations are huge. They make it very significant. The reason they're significant is they would have given us in 2011 a 62% majority valley district, but the census data is even more in the valley's favor in 2020. The valley got a little bit bigger share of the city in 2020 data compared to 10 years ago. In fact, the valley's population is 38% of the city's population by the 2020 census. And if you convert that to council districts, it means we should have 5 full valley districts, which we do. And if we have one district over the hill, it'd be a 68% valley majority, which is very neat. There's a lot of ways to draw these districts. There are just millions of ways. So SOHA attempted to draw one, and I'll show you what, this is the recommendation we submitted to the council, the commission, excuse me. And this is what that district would look like. We started out drawing the valley side of it, because that's the side we live in, and that's where we want to make our mark and let people know what we want. And what we found is with a 68% valley majority, you can have the entire Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council, You can have the entire Encino Neighborhood Council and the entire Tarzana Neighborhood Council. And that's important because the commission doesn't want to split neighborhood councils. But that's not even enough population to get us to 68%. So you add a little piece of Van Nuys here up in the purple, and you add a little piece of Studio City over here on the green on the side. And what you get is a total valley 68% majority for this district. Now, on the other side of the hill, we just didn't want to leave the valley and not do anything. We're not going to tell the west side what to do. That's not fair. So what I did was, and I drew this, we added the Bel Air Beverly Crest Neighborhood Council. This big purple piece is all Bel Air Beverly Crest, one neighborhood council. It's only a third of the size of Sherman Oaks in population, but it's a lot bigger. And we added all of that. We added North Westwood, where UCLA is, and we added Westwood. And it was just pure luck that exactly added to the number of people that should live in a district, according to the commission, the ideal number, which is 259,916 people. We're off by a few. So he said, this is a pretty good recommendation. And we wrote it up in a big letter and we submitted it. And that letter is available. So this is what we have recommended to the commission, but we're going to have Commissioner Suh and then Rafael talk about the process and what's going on to give you background. And then we're going to go to Q&A. But I do want to tell you, and you'll be able to see this on the video, if you go to our website, which is SOHA914.com, we'll have a notice up there on how to get the video, how to get this presentation, and how to get our SOHA recommendation letter. And we will also, you can also find it by going to YouTube and just search on SOHA Redistricting Forum and it should pop right up. And if you have any questions for me, this is my email address and I'm glad to answer any questions you have. And again, we thank you very much for attending and participating in this forum. We think it's really great. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Suh, and thank you very much for all the information you're going to give us in advance.
Thank you so much, Bob. And I just want to start by recognizing your continued, persistent, collegial, energetic involvement in this process. It's really exciting and energizing to see people who are so dedicated, thoughtful, and energetic about their community. So thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm delighted to be here. So my name is Alexandra Suh, and I have the honor of serving as the commissioner representing CD4 on the commission. Now, the LA City Redistricting Commission has, over the past weeks and months, and then continuing on for several more, is holding a series of public hearings. And this public forum today is not part of the official process, but it is absolutely important to have as many conversations and discussions and opportunities for members of the public to be informed and weigh in. And we are here to listen and consider and learn from any opportunity, whether it is one of the formal processes or an informal forum like this. So, you know, Bob said something about sharing information. I really see my role more as listening and understanding as much as possible. But I'll tell you a little bit about who we are as a redistricting commission. It's an appointed 21-member body, and the commission is charged by the Los Angeles City Charter with the responsibility of designing new recommended boundaries of the city's 15 council districts. And as Bob earlier mentioned, this happens once every 10 years after the decennial census. So, and the commission's adopted core purpose is to independently draw proposed Los Angeles City Council district boundaries based on census data and applicable law that will allocate constituents proportionately, while also accounting for the unique histories, experiences, and interests of communities, such that those interests will have the highest probability of being served by elected representatives in the city of Los Angeles. And that's a charge and a mission we take really seriously. And it's also not easy, right? There's different communities, there's different requests, there's different ideas, and somehow our job is to take all of that into consideration and come up with something that is as effective as possible, as fair as possible, and through a process that is as transparent as possible. And that is what we are committed to do. The commission will not start its official line drawing process until later this month. And it's a public process. So anyone who wants to join in to that official process can do so, and it'll be virtual. So you can actually be on there while we are meeting together as a commission to talk about the potential lines. After we come up with a proposal, we will submit that for public comment, then go back to the table, and then finally submit a version to City Council. And ultimately, City Council will have the responsibility of adopting the final plan. So we're still in the public hearing and testimony phase of this. Some regional meetings have just started to happen where people are just trying to bring together some of the information we're hearing at the different community hearings and councils. And so this is a really, really good time to be hearing from this community, the Sherman Oaks community, on what your community of interest is, what makes your community a community, and what you'd like to see in terms of the final redistricting of LA City. So with that, I will turn it back to you, Bob.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Suh. And I'm glad you explained how you want the communities to be involved, and that there are more opportunities. And I think it's perfect that next we're going to switch over to hear from Rafael, who's going to explain a little bit about how to make comments and when things are going to happen, and give everybody an idea of the timeline. So thank you very much. And Rafael, please begin. And you're going to be sharing your screen.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Richard. And thank you, Jeffrey, for the invitation. And really, I'm grateful to Commissioner Suh and how she sort of laid out the charge that is before this commission, our communities. It's a pretty heroic charge, and really appreciate the sharing of of the recommendation from SOHA. That's exactly why we're here, because the engagement aspect of this work is so critical. I mean, yes, we're looking at census data. Yes, we're looking at other data sources like the American Community Survey. But just as important is the voice of the people who live in our many, many neighborhoods throughout this incredible city of ours. That is just so diverse geographically, just in terms of, the nuances that exist, right? And, I mean, just looking at the map, I mean, we're talking about hillsides, we're talking about major thoroughfares, we're talking about, I mean, just various communities with various experiences, right? And so it's really, at least for me, it's been a privilege, because over the last couple of months, I really feel like I'm on this journey, learning about Los Angeles, right? Current LA, hearing from people. And in the last couple of months, we have held 15 public hearings, starting off in the Northwest San Fernando Valley, and basically, now we're over in the South LA communities, and it's been pretty incredible. And the themes that communities have elevated, right? I mean, when we talk about our communities of interest, when we talk about our alliances with other neighborhoods, and how people have this affinity towards each other, and a passion, to remain or to maybe consider other options, you know, those are things that we take very seriously. So what you're submitting to, what you submitted already, you know, it's definitely going to inform this process of ours. Just to give you an idea, I wanted to share this time frame with you. Commissioner Sum mentioned some of it, but let me see where I have it. It is, where is my time frame? Hold on a quick second. It always tends to happen this way. But I want to share with you this time frame.
Bob, I think you need to give him co-host capabilities to share.
No, we tested his sharing before you signed on, and he can share.
Yeah, I can. Here it is. Okay. Can folks see this time frame?
Yes.
Okay, and I apologize if it's a little small, but this gives you an idea in terms of what our time frame has been and continues, right? Because one of the things that we have to remember, and Bob and Richard know this very, very well, the redistricting engagement process is not just and does not end with this phase of public hearings, right? I mean, this continues. The public hearings where we're hearing from community sets the stage in terms of what Commissioner Suh described earlier as the map drawing, right? So right now we are close to completing the first phase of public hearings, right? We actually had one a couple of days ago in CD9, and next Wednesday, we are going to be in CD8. And next Saturday, September 11th at 10 o'clock, that's going to be our last public hearing, and that's a citywide meeting. So everyone is invited, you know, to attend, to witness, to contribute. And so, you know, we definitely encourage folks to continue with that. And as you all know, about 3 weeks ago, census data was released. So, you know, we are beginning to take a look at that, blending it with the testimonies that we're hearing from community. You know, the commission has created 4 ad hoc committees, right? 4 ad hoc committees that are comprised of commissioners, right? These ad hoc committees are basically organized in a regional manner, right? So we have, you know, parts of the San Fernando Valley region, sort of the East Side Central region, the West Side Central region, and then we have the South and the Harbor. And so that is an opportunity for our commissioners to basically look at the testimonies, beginning to look at some of the data and beginning to sort of form their analysis, because come September 13th, we are going to have a public hearing where the commissioners are going to hear report outs from the 4 regions. And so this is going to be the first opportunity that commissioners get to sort of see the breadth, hear the breadth of the city and what's sort of been discussed. And this is a great opportunity for the public to also participate in, right? This is going to be the first time all of us are going to be hearing this information. So it's going to be pretty fascinating. Then, you know, from that, on September 20th and 21st, those are the 2 meetings. It's a Monday and a Tuesday. Those are the meetings where commissioners are going to engage in public line drawing. And as Commissioner Suh mentioned earlier on, this is going to be done virtually. So people are going to get to see it. And so again, we invite you to participate in those meetings. On the 29th of September, the commissioners are going to adopt the draft map, right? So that's when they basically will adopt it. And come the first week of October, we're going to go into our 3rd phase of hearings, right? This is where the commissioners will release the draft maps, present them to the community so that the community has an opportunity to react. You know, did you, include or consider our recommendations? I like this. Maybe we should look at something else over here. This gives the community an opportunity to react and to provide feedback. And so we're going to be holding 4 of these hearings virtually. And those are going to be, and Bob, you know, I'll send you these dates so that we could share also with our attendees so that you have them with you. because we really want folks to engage in this process. And like I said, engagement does not stop with just the first phase of public hearing. It continues, and we need to definitely, continue to, provide feedback and become engaged. The meetings that we're going to be holding, the second phase of hearings, is going to be October 6th, October 9th, October 13th, and October 16th. So once the commission gets this feedback from the public, they go back, more discussion. There is, potential adjustments. We'll see what happens. And so on October 21st, October 21st, the commission will adopt its final map, right? For purposes of submitting to the city council on October 29th. So October 29th is a day when the commission submits its final maps, its final report to the city council. And so that's what the process is going to look like. And as you all know, and Bob, Richard, you know probably better than I do, what happens when these maps are then submitted to the city council and what the city council does with it, right? They of course are going to have their own process. They have their own deliberations. It goes through committees. The community, the neighborhoods are still engaged. We encourage the community to continue to engage because these maps are going to need to be approved by the council and the mayor by the end of the year, because these new lines are going to go into effect January 1st, 2022. And so this gives you an idea in terms of the work ahead, as Bob had talked about earlier. We have a few more months, but we're definitely pushing away, and we continue to ask the community to remain engaged. And we have various tools. We have our website that we invite people to go to. You also have access to mapping software there as well. Our website is laccrc2021.org. So I'll leave it there because I know folks also have a lot of questions. We have a great crowd this morning. And again, thank you for the invitation. I want to thank all the participants too. This is a long weekend, and the fact that you're making time for this really shows us your commitment to your community, to your city, to this overall process. And thank Bob, because we were working on a whole bunch of dates with Commissioner Sun, myself, and we really wanted to make it happen, and I'm glad that we did. So thank you very much. Bob, you're on mute.
Bob, you're still on mute.
You're still on mute.
Thank you. Didn't want to unmute. My cat came in and was starting to do some things, so I wanted to fix that. Thank you so much for those specific dates. And there was one question I was going to ask, and you answered it, Rafael, and that is, when do the districts go into effect? And so they go into effect on January 1st, and then the elections of the odd numbered districts that are going on will be for the new district boundaries for council members. That's fascinating. Thanks again. What we're going to do now is go to the comment and the Q&A section. And here's the way we're going to do it. We've got Jeffrey on board and our other board member, Marshall Long, with us. And I'm going to ask them for any comments or questions they have. We're going to limit people to one comment or one question. And Jeffrey's volunteered to be the timekeeper. If you have a comment or a question, we're going to limit you to 1.5 minutes and only one question. And our board members tend to love to ask multiple part questions. So there's 22 answers. Please kind of make it a single part question. Then we're going to go to, go ahead, Commissioner.
I just had a question. Are we also inviting people to put questions into the chat? Because sometimes that is a way to get, questions in line, if you want to do it that way.
We could do that too. It kind of gets a little hard for us logistically to do that. So I think I'm going to ask them to do it, but I'll open up the chat at the end for them and anybody who wants to put a question in there, and I could send those to you. if you want. But we found it's kind of good to have the people do it. We'll bring them on and let them ask themselves. What I want to say is we're going to first ask Sherman Oaks residents to ask questions. We're not going to limit it to just that. But if there are any Sherman Oaks residents, people in Sherman Oaks, please click the raise hand function. There's a little hand down at the bottom, usually of your screen. Raise your hand and we'll call you. If you're on the telephone, that's a little different. Press *9. *9 will register with Zoom. I notice we have a couple of telephone participants, and we'll call you by name, and we will then let you ask your question. We'll unmute you. Be ready to unmute when we call your name, and we'll ask your question. And then once all the Sherman Oaks residents have gotten their questions or comments in, then we'll open it to everybody, because I know we have some people on here from other areas too. And don't worry, we will stay on until we get all the questions answered. We have a nice group of people. It's not too big, not too small, so it's going to work out just fine. But first, I'm going to ask if any of our board members, basically Jeffrey and Marshall, if either of you have a question, and we'll start with that first. Marshall, go ahead. You're unmuted.
Thank you. I wrote out a list, but I will ask my one question. Basically, what useful information can we provide to assist you, the commission, in your work?
So the commission, I'll start with that, and then perhaps Mr. Gonzalez or anyone else can add to this. Really, it's any kind of information about your community and what makes it a community. So we consider census data, we consider the population, and we know what the neighborhood council boundaries are, what the existing city council boundaries are. So those are kind of quantitative and objective data that we have. And then the piece that we also want to consider and must consider is what we call communities of interest. So that could be defined in any number of ways. It's not up to us to say what makes your community yours, but that's what we need to hear from you. So, some people say that certain landmarks or certain maybe it's an ethnic community, a religious community, a business community. There's all sorts of things that could make a community what it is. Maybe it's an interest in the arts. It could be really anything that makes people feel in a particular geographical area that this is our community and we want to be together. So that kind of information is very useful, and you can submit that at one of the hearings. You could write it down, you could draw a map. There's any number of ways to submit that, and you could share that right here with us.
Thank you.
And one thing, Rafael, do you have a chart showing how people submit comments that you could share with us?
I do.
I think that might be useful, because I know this commission's made a myriad of ways available, which I think would be good.
Okay, do you see the contact information there?
Yes.
Where you can submit. So you can see our website. You can email us the information. You can email myself. I will make sure that it gets into our database, right? And I do want to just reinforce the communities of interest that Commissioner Sell was talking about. Those are just so important, because the assumption shouldn't be that commissioners have all the information. And also the census data provides us very exact information. It's not the color, it's not the contours, it's not the nuances. It's what we're looking for. It's sort of the color commentary that makes up these communities. that basically brings this data to life. That's why these testimonies, these type of interactions are so critical, because that basically just gives us the color we need as the commission is determining these district lines.
That's terrific. If you'd stop sharing your screen, I'll see. Jeffrey, do you have a question that you would like to ask or a comment you'd like to make?
No, I'd just like to thank Commissioners and Mr. Gonzalez for being here today, making themselves available. And I would encourage people to be actively involved in this. This is part of our social contract, part of our consent to be governed and how it works. Thank you.
Thanks so much. We've got 4 people with hand raised for comment or question. I'm going to just start calling them. Jeffrey, I think I can allow them to talk. I can do that. And then if you would time them for 90 seconds, that's an extra hand I don't have to run a timer with this. But the first person is Gail Salem. And Gail, you are now allowed to talk. And if you'd unmute, and we'd appreciate your information.
Well, thank you. And thank you everyone for everything you do on a daily basis so we can enjoy our community, no matter where we live in the city. So I know it's a job that you all, I can clearly see, take very, very seriously. So thank you. My name is Gail Salem. I've lived in the same home in Sherman Oaks for 32 years. I mean, you can't see me, thank God. But, and I've worked in the community, specifically in the community, for the past 20. So I know the area very well and have been very active in the community for that amount of years. I live in the area of part of Sherman Oaks, just north of Burbank Boulevard. HOSO was renamed Sherman Oaks in 2009 by the city of Los Angeles. And I would like to request that the commission keep HOSO whole with Greater Sherman Oaks during this year's redistricting process. Sorry, I've only had 1 cup of coffee and I have my grandkids here. Also, I agree with SOHA's new CD5 map that would unite Sherman Oaks with our contiguous communities of Encino, Tarzana, Bel Air, Beverly Crest, and Westwood. And we have many more shared common interests with the new CDC than we ever had with any cities in CD4, such as Hollywood, Silver Lake, Los Feliz, and Koreatown. I thank you, Commissioner Za, for your attending our meeting today, and we urge you to approve the new CD5 map. So thank you all, and have a wonderful Labor Day weekend and any other holidays coming up this coming week. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Gail.
You're welcome.
And the next speaker is Ann O'Connor. Hi, Ann, and be sure to unmute yourself like I did so badly a few minutes ago.
Thank you, Bob. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ann O'Connor, and I live in Poso, which is part of Sherman Oaks, which was renamed to Sherman Oaks by LA City in 2009, and we urge you to keep us whole with Greater Sherman Oaks in this redistricting process as well. We urge you to keep Sherman Oaks in a single over-the-pass valley district by approving the new CD5 map recommended by SOHA. By uniting us with our real communities of interest, Encino, Tarzana, Bel Air, Beverly Crest, and Westwood, we may be able to elect yet another valley-based council member, since we would now have 68% of an additional valley district. This would help us maintain the voting strength both in Sherman Oaks and the valley as a whole. The current CD4 has a tortuous isthmus along Mulholland, which tries to connect us with cities with whom we share no community of interest, and it violates the redistricting rule of contiguity and compactness. Thank you, Commissioner Sa, for attending this important meeting. Also, thank you, Rafael, and we urge you to approve this new CD5 map. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ann. We appreciate it. We have another Ann and that is Ann Ballard. And I'm going to now allow Ann Ballard to talk.
Yes, my name is Ann Ballard.
Ann, I clicked the wrong button. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Can you hear me
Unmute.
now?
Yes, I can.
Wait, I think it's the wrong one.
Ann, you should be on now. You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I agree with Gail Salem and Ann O'Connor about redistricting Sherman Oaks to be to create the new CD5 that would unite Sherman Oaks with our real communities of interest at Encino, Tarzana, Bel Air, Beverly Crest, and Westwood. We do not share any community interests with the city's currently CD4. Thank you and have a great Labor Day weekend.
Thank you, Ann. We have one telephone person. This is the last Sherman Oaks comment. That's the phone number ending in 9560. I'm going to allow that person to talk. Please go ahead. You're muted, right? Oh, good.
Hello, my name is Sally Durbin. Thank you for taking this call and thank you for your work. I am a resident in Sherman Oaks. I've been here over 30 years and I appreciate your efforts. My goal is to take away your information about what makes a community and to involve my immediate neighborhood in joining with SOHA. That we have an immediate concern, which I can bring up for your radar on the 14th as I join SOHA once again. And my immediate issue is that what makes us a community is the fact that we have a beautiful street, and at the top end of our street, it's Oakfield, running into a dirt road, which is considered a fire access road. Good, that's a good thing. The fire department should keep it that way. And there's a house that is approved of, and as I know, it will be built, and it's a 7-car garage house, which will impact the integrity of our neighborhood, diminishing probably our property value and splitting the traffic there for between Beverly Glen and Oakfield coming on down into Millbrook. So the fire department might be involved here, might be able to make a statement as to why they need that as an access, and it would impact financially what happens to our neighborhood, which includes Richard Neutzer houses and some historic aspects. So I wanted to put that on your radar and take back, as I say, your information here today into my neighborhood. If you have any suggestions for me, I'm glad to take that.
Please, you may go on the website a little later today or over the weekend and try to get our complete recommendation letter so you understand a little more of the details. I couldn't go into everything on the overview this morning. It wasn't appropriate or necessary, but we appreciate that, and bring that up also at the Sherman Oaks community meeting or with the council office too, because that's something that they will want to look into. With
Right.
that, if
Right.
there's anyone now from any more Sherman Oaks residents, we only gotten 4 comments and questions. And now if there's anyone from any other area that would like to ask a question, I'd certainly pop that up. Lori Kelson, go ahead. Hi, Lori, how are you?
Hi, thank you for this forum. And Bob, you've done a remarkable job along with others on planning a community that is our community, to include Encino, to include Sherman Oaks, to include the Roscoe Mirror Valley up in Bel Air. And yes, I totally support the work that you're doing because we have such common goals and common neighborhoods here, especially up here in the hillside to protect. I wasn't quite sure if your line for Encino North included the entire Sepulveda Basin, which is supported by Encino Neighborhood Council.
I know, and Lori, you're from Encino, I know, and are you on the neighborhood council right now, or?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I thought so. We've worked in the past on various things together. I drew the line straight across Burbank Boulevard. Or
Okay.
whatever
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, it would be better to be across Victory, because that is where our neighborhood council goes all the way up to Victory.
Okay, you know something, it's funny, the neighborhood council map that appears on the redistricting, where you can draw the redistricting maps, does not show that.
Okay, I believe that we have shared the Sepulveda Basin, but I know the neighborhood council feels very strongly.
Yeah.
Our current president, Pat Bates, is very involved in the Sepulveda Basin and protecting that open space area.
We should talk about that because it's very funny. I looked at Lake Balboa Neighborhood Council, and they actually have two maps for it. One's a bottom half and one's a top half, but they
Okay.
both have the same population. So we might want to talk about that offline because it gets into a lot of detail.
Great. Thank you so much for your work.
Okay, Lori, thank you. Is there anybody else who wants to ask a question? Yes, here's one more. Jacqueline Wagner, please go ahead.
Yes, hi, good morning. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I don't know that it's so much of a question as much as a statement. Sherman Way. And
We missed
I just,
you cut out for a moment. Could you repeat where you are and what community and where you live?
I live in the Lake Balboa area. I believe it's considered Lake Balboa. I'm sorry, I've only lived here for the last 3.5 years, but I'm on Firmament between Van Owen and Sherman Way. And my understanding is that this was supposed to be a part of the Van Nuys Sherman Oaks and Sherman Oaks, Homeowners Association or council area. And I don't know where we are, but I just want to, I feel like we should be a part of the Lake Balboa community. And I don't know if strategically, I think I've seen maps where we're not on it or so. And I don't know where we should be, but I feel like we are Lake Balboa from Sepulveda and Sherman Way back over where the RE1 zone, large lots. And I really feel an affinity to Encino, Lake Balboa. And I hope someone can at least look at that for me. Thank you.
Yes, I will say one thing is, I think if I understand it correctly, you're probably in the Lake Balboa Neighborhood Council, which on our recommendation, we didn't include it. We had to either pick Lake Balboa or Tarzana on our map. And I'm going to tell you, I talked with a lot of people in Tarzana, and they thought they were a really good fit to Encino, and so the Encino people. So we chose that. But it'd be great if you could go on and maybe draw a map the way you have, or send a comment in the commission. I'm not saying that our recommendation is perfect. It's one way that's possible. These maps are possibilities, and you give comments. So please just be involved and get that in.
Thank you.
And
Thank
it's
you.
complex.
Yeah.
It's complex drawing these. Thank you.
And I'd like to also reiterate that, I mean, you can be an expert on map drawing, but you don't have to be an expert on map drawing. You
No.
can submit your comments about what you feel makes up your community, and that will be taken into consideration, even if you don't have a sophisticated map. So it's really, people should feel free to submit their comments about their communities however they wish to do so. It could be in an email, public testimony, through a map, etc.
Thank you, Commissioner. That's important. I know a few people who've drawn the maps. I got started. I talked to a gentleman in Encino who drew his own map and submitted it. And it's actually a lot of fun. You fill in the little squares, and each square is a little census district, and the population builds up, and you say, you can look at the neighborhood council boundaries, you can look at the current district boundaries, they all appear on there. You have to play around with it a little bit. It is fun to do. I'd recommend it to anyone who who has something very specific they want to provide to the commission, because it gives a good basis for a comment, is what we have found. And I hope you will submit comments. And we've also submitted a letter, and we've also made comments on the website and everything else. And I've been going to commission meetings since October or December, I guess. I started doing this in October. Right now, that's all the comments that we have, or all the questions. If there's anybody else who would like to speak or ask a question, that would be fine. I'll wait a couple of minutes. Commissioner, do you have any closing remarks you might wish to make?
Well, it would be reiterating what I've already said, basically, but just that this process, I've been really, really impressed with the process and how comprehensive and transparent it is. And, it's the more people who can participate and share their thoughts, their feelings, their opinions about their communities and how it is part of the broader Los Angeles, better. So I'm really happy to be here today.
Thank you very much. Rafael, anything for you?
I thank you, Jeffrey, for the frame that you shared with us earlier on, that the redistricting process is part of our social contract, right? This is part of the civic engagement spectrum, albeit it only happens 10 years. So folks are not as familiar with it as they are with voter registration and turning out, joining a neighborhood council, becoming a US citizen, being engaged in your community. This is all part of that same fabric, and we need to we need to embrace it, right? And so the fact that we had over 30 people here this morning says a lot about the people of Sherman Oaks and some of the neighboring communities, that we really care, that we're engaged. And so I continue to encourage folks to stay involved. I recognize, some of the folks who shared some of, their commentary, and they've done so publicly. They've done it through our hearings, or a couple of other folks I don't remember. But if you have not submitted your written statement or have not attended a hearing, and again, we strongly urge folks to attend the September 11th hearing, which is next week, next Saturday at 10 o'clock, to do so. It's just so important. And then part of, what I'm seeing here is this community building, right? An opportunity to continuing to flex our political power, our social power as constituents of this great city of ours. So thank you again for inviting Bob, Jeffrey, Richard. I actually emailed you the specific dates of the upcoming meetings that I described earlier on. So please feel free to share with all our attendees here and other members of your respective organizations. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rafael. And Marshall, you said you had a whole list. Do you have one more question you'd like to ask to close this out?
Yes, I'm, you're tempting me. One question I had is, how do some districts get gerrymandered such as CD4 and others not? I guess that's just throwing dice as much as anything. But...
Yeah, I mean, I was not centrally involved 10 years ago or in the past. So it's hard for me to say what conversations resulted in the current configuration. But I think that without knowing what led to the current configuration, I can just observe by looking at the city that there must have been quite a few multiple considerations, because if we think we would ideally want to see more contiguous and compact districts, the fact that we don't see that in many cases means that there was a lot of considerations going into it, and a lot of debate and discussion. And that sounds very vague, but that's, I don't know the details of how we came up with the districts we have now. So I would just make that observation that it's and then even sitting in some of the hearings, everyone who speaks at one of these hearings is very compelling. And so the desire is to find something that complies with all the laws and the rules, and also meets the requests and demands of every person who speaks. But then you realize, oh wait, you literally cannot do what every single person wants, because that would be impossible. So somehow we have to deal with that.
Yeah,
and do our best.
Yeah, I totally second that statement. And in this country, there's been a long history of gerrymandering, not just in Los Angeles, but just throughout this nation of ours. And so, I mean, it's one of the reasons why we have the Voting Rights Act, right, to protect certain communities from that. And all I would say is this is why the engagement aspect is so critical, because we should not forget that there's a history, and we should continue to remind our commissioners, our council members, that this is not right, that you're going to stay on top of this. And so, and mind you, I understand, as Bob said earlier, this is very complicated. How you shift these lines, because you're using so many different considerations. So, but nevertheless, for certain districts to look a certain way, when you have certain communities that are not benefiting from all the economic resources of a district, you have to question that. And so, again, having that on the record is very important for this commission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Richard, did you want to make any remarks?
I just want to thank you and Jeffrey for your work in putting this together, the commissioner and Rafael for participating. What we intend to do now in the next few days is to widely distribute this recording, so more people will be able to understand the process and the importance of the process. And we look forward to people joining us on our regularly scheduled monthly meeting, which is normally the third Wednesday of the month, but this month will be the Tuesday, September 14th. With that, I turn it back to Bob. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeffrey, do you have anything you'd like to say?
The only thing would be to continue to ask for members of our community to be active in whatever way. And certainly this is a very important way. So please take a look and please try to be involved. Thanks.
Thank you. And I would second that. If we're going to get the district that is best for us and districts that are best all around the city, the commission needs to know as specifically as you can what you want. I got to know the executive director of the 2011 commission quite well, and had breakfast with him right after the commission was done. And he said, Sherman Oaks kept coming in and saying, this is what we want, this is what we want. And it was consistent. He says, but in other communities, we'd get inconsistent requests, or we'd change something and they'd say, no, that's wrong. Another group would come in. So be as specific as you can and make sure the commission can understand it, because this is really, really difficult to do from our end and from the commission's end. It's like a big jigsaw puzzle with 10,000 pieces and math assigned to each piece, which is even worse. You got to make everything balance. So with that, I thank everybody, Commissioner Suh, Director Gonzalez, Rafael, for giving us this information, and especially those dates. And if you have any questions about what we recommended, you can contact me. I showed my email address earlier. A lot of you know it. It's bobhillsideordinance@gmail.com. And I'd be glad to answer those. And I thank you all for attending on this Saturday, and look forward to questions you may have, and send your good comments in to the commission. So with that, I'll close the meeting, and thank you very much. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Bob.